Moss, host of the SOS, the Shout Out Show. Listen, man, I hope everybody's having a great Wednesday. I'm coming to you live from Fairfield Inn in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We are kicking off the premiere tomorrow night of the Overworked, Underpaid Teacher Comedy Tour. Myself, Marlon Hill, and Chastity Washington. We got a great lineup. I think we have a few tickets that are sold. If you're interested, you can definitely come see the show. We're going to be at the Laughing Tap, Southside Milwaukee, and then on Saturday we're going to be in Madison, Wisconsin. And I got to get the address for you. I'm recovering, so don't be mad at your brother. Listen, I just want to take time out to thank people who watched last week's podcast and talking about Palestine and Black existence. This show is a little bit of a carryover, but I think it begins to delineate a little bit of what I was talking about, because I don't want to be the person that's advocating for Palestine all the time, because I've been the person that's been advocating for Palestine all the time, and in Darfur and Sudan and Somalia and all these places. We Chinese, I've been doing that, the Uyghurs, I've been doing that, Rohingya, I've been doing that type of stuff. So I don't want to be stuck in the mud with one idea. Oppression is oppression. That's number one. Number two is, and we can go through all of the hadith about what it is to face oppression, but I really, really have a deep down feeling that a lot of people understand that, the weakest of the things that are registered in your heart, it doesn't promote the change that needs to happen. That we do have to, at some point in time, we have to take the situation into our own hands and understand the I want to say the callousness, the shallowness, and really just the apathetic understanding of how people are beginning to address us. And when I say address, I mean address in a very mainstream way. Like, this is not behind your back. This is not, on the slide. This is not whispers. There are people who are in a situation right now where they don't care. And, the whole rule of discernment is out the window. And I said it last week that we can't be in a situation where we are creating space for discernment for people who will not use it. You can't create spaces for logic for people who are not logical people, or people who are not reasonable people, or people who are not empathetic people. There's a thing that says they're not going to change. There's a rule that says they're not going to change. There's a habit that says the ethic that you see is the ethic that's going to be the thing that's driving them now, is going to drive them later. I had a good friend of mine, and I love him to death. But we couldn't leave him in our house alone because he had an addiction. And his addiction drove him to do things, still lie. And it's like, I know there's good in this person, but for right now, I can't take a risk on him bringing that good to the fold. And we adjusted appropriately. Today's show is the curious case of Rashida Tlaib, Congressman from Michigan, Rashida Tlaib. I normally don't take a person's name, but I thought this was interesting because she was censured yesterday. And I think people really need to understand what this thing was. It's largely symbolic, extremely symbolic, but it's not as symbolic as we think it is. You're looking at the culture of which it happened. The ability of people, lawmakers, to take the law into their own hands. Not necessarily something that's representative of the people, or what we want, that we felt like she should be censored or something like that. These are lawmakers who are creating. Here you go. There you go. They are creating their own pockets of justice and mercy that have nothing to do with the people that they serve. Today on the Shout Out Show, I hope And I'm not going to try and spend all day on this. I got things to do. But I hope today I'm going to address one, what has been this growing pivot, if you will, for anti-Semitism here in the United States. And it's coming at the cost of Muslim identity and Muslim expression. That's number one. Number two is this is an attack on Muslim women. And Muslim men need to stand up and understand that Muslim women are taking these attacks because we are not contextually understanding what's going on. We are still in spaces, many of us are still in spaces where we believe that diplomacy will solve all of this. Listen, I'm an African American man. I don't believe in diplomacy that involves the United States. The United States does not do diplomacy. The United States does colonization just like the UK and a bunch of other countries, France, the list goes on. So listen, we're going to take a break. We can come back. I appreciate you. This is Preacher Moss on the ShOUT Show. We're talking about the curious case of Rashida Tlaib here on the SOS. Let's roll. All right, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to our ShOUT Show family, our ShOUT Show royalty. Stars in the building, I want to give a shout out. Of course, there's Sister Sonia Salahuddin Dalton, the wife and queen of Bilal Salahuddin. How you doing, sister? Thank you so much for your well wishes. I appreciate you. I love the Salahuddin family. Thank you so much for checking on your brother. I want to give a shout out to Mr. 6 o'clock, straight up, straight down, my main man, Altaf Rashid, all the way from Toronto. He is the envoy to the ShOUT Show, has been and will continue to be. Altaf, how you doing, beloved? Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, sir. Good to see you in the building. He comes all the way from Toronto. When you talk about day ones, I got a ton of day ones on this show. Appreciate you. Want to give a shout out to my brother Johnny L. Thomas. We are in the same city, Ak. We're doing Overwork Underpaid Teacher Comedy Tour, kicking it off from Marlin Hill and Chastity, Washington. It's going to be a great show at the Laughing Tap. Looking forward to doing that. Want to make sure I give a shout out. Also, Bilal said they're in different rooms. Y'all need to work that out, man. Black love, man. So give a shout out, of course, to exec producer on the show, sister Satana Whitfield. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, who is undoubtedly one of the hardest working women in the game. ShOUT Show, Muslim Journal. She does it all. But we're glad to have her on the show, and I do mean that. Even though I give her a hard time sometimes, we appreciate it. We appreciate having her on the show. Talent, talent and ethic. Which is something that definitely personifies her, because we've been doing this show for a couple years, man, and it's easy to quit. It's easy to get bored, but you know what? It's been easy for me because she's been and made this thing palatable. And you have to have a reason to get up to go to work in the morning sometimes, and it's the same thing with these podcasts. You got to get up and say, all right, because it's easy to just say I'm gonna miss a couple. I was sick. I missed a couple. I told folks. I missed a couple Friday reminders. I told folks. But when I got back, I was really happy to get back on the air. Okay. I'm going to play for you, and I'm going to let it run in its entirety. I'm going to play for you. It's part of a news article, of course, news report. But this is what happened yesterday with Congressman Rashida Tlaib. And let me say up front, I do know Congressman Rashida Tlaib. We have hung out. We've been at functions together, and I do have a deep respect for her. I admire her, but I understand what she went through, and I think we need to talk about it here on the SOS.
Anti-Semitic rhetoric. In a recent social media post, she invoked the phrase "from the river to the sea," which critics say is a veiled reference to the eradication of Israel.
The river is the Jordan River, and the sea is the Mediterranean. This is a call for the complete destruction of Israel.
While Tlaib called it an aspirational call for freedom, it drew condemnation from both sides of the aisle, with 22 Democrats joining to support the GOP-led resolution to punish Tlaib.
My criticism has always been of the Israeli government and Netanyahu's actions. It is important to separate people and governments.
Tlaib did not have to stand in the well of the House, which sometimes occurs when a member is reprimanded. She becomes only the 26th member of Congress to ever be censured, which is one step short of expulsion, Tony.
Nicole, notable for a lot of reasons.
Let's get to the point of what you just saw. The video wasn't backed up long enough further back. I apologize for that. Listen, she literally had to say, I don't want to have to apologize for saying that Palestinians are people. And I think that was a very poignant point. And shout out to Ilhan Omar. She was there. Shout out to Representative Andre Carson. He was there. This whole thing of censure is largely symbolic. She doesn't lose any power. She doesn't lose any committee seats. Let's throw that out there. But the visual is extremely powerful. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is what she said, brothers and sisters. And I think what you need to understand, and I have to play it in my mind, is you don't have to say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. If Palestine is free, they don't have to have aspirational messages. That says, brothers and sisters, that they are under oppression. Some of the greatest gospel songs are written about being free. That God will intervene and change this situation because the oppressor doesn't understand God, doesn't believe in God, believes that they're God. From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. It sounds like Amazing Grace. It sounds like, Amazing Grace. It sounds like The Upper Room. It sounds like people need a spiritual release, if you will. And to watch a congressman, a white man, say that this calls for the destruction of Israel. Let me tell you something right here. Because right now I'm not worried about my career. I'm going to tell you right now. It's two people that are the moistest people in the world right now. Number one is Israel. Israel is the most moist people in the world. And I'm going to tell you why. The constant abuse, the constant oppression of Palestinian people, this is a revisiting of what they came from. European Jews came from the Holocaust, and they have made sure that once they got somebody in the lab and they could treat them like they got treated in the Holocaust, this thing has not let up. Point in fact, they can't take a difference of opinion. Let me say a difference of opinion. They won't accept a difference of opinion. My Friday reminder, I said, stop calling these people Zionists. Call them what they are. Call them serial killers because they have the same tendency of serial killers. That a serial killer can't concentrate on anything else other than the person that they're trying to kill. And sadly, Israel is not understood at this point in time under the Zionist lens that you can't kill the Palestinian people. You can't wipe out or eradicate an entire race. You think if you take Gaza out, there are not going to be any Palestinian people. Foolish. That's like saying, hey man, we bomb Harlem, ain't going to be no black people. Foolish. Hey, if we take out Northwest Washington, D.C., ain't going to be no black people. Foolish. And the killer part is, just like the white man in the United States, the white supremacy in the United States, when the goings gets tough, I have to be the victim. I literally have to be the victim because I can't have people understanding what my actions are. That your own actions victimize the exact same thing that you want. There's two things that come to mind. Rashida Tlaib didn't have to stand in the well of Congress and be lectured to. That's number one. But number two, let's talk about some of these soft Democrats that way too. When I say soft Democrats, I'm talking about Harold Jeffries and folks like that. You've been kowtowing to the Jewish lobby for years. And when I say it, it's not like I make it up. When I say it, there's money. There's a money trail. There are relationships that have been established. And it seemed to me that the only Palestinian in Congress who stood up and said, hey, listen, Palestinians are people too. She said, I don't understand, the voices of Palestinian children being killed is no different than the voices of Israeli children being killed, in that it shouldn't be a reality, in that it shouldn't happen. Now, what you have now is the delineation part, the game playing. I said last week that Black existence in the aspect of the Palestinian struggle here in the United States, they are making this thing a wide divide. A wide divide. And I say this because in the 80s, when we were protesting against apartheid, it was interesting because it was two types of black protests. There were black people who were willing to get arrested, willing to lose their job. We were willing to risk it all. A lot of us, I was in that category, I was young. And then there were people who would come to the protest just to say, I went to the protest. So when apartheid was finally abolished, there was a group of people who said, yeah, I got arrested. I sacrificed this way. And then there were people who said, I wrote position papers. And while I appreciate the position paper, it is not the same as going out on the front line. Here in America right now, there's a conversation happening in Black America, wondering if the whole idea of going out of the front line is really what it is or what it used to be in a very traditional sense. Because when I see protests now, I see a bunch of people where people are taking pictures. We don't take pictures at protests. You know why? Because the government already takes your picture at the protest. We don't post. Why are you posting on Instagram, fool? That's information that be used against you. Didn't you just see the insurrection folks going to jail, going to prison? Thousands of people are now being brought to justice for their actions at the insurrection. It's like, and let me even be clearer. People talking about, my account, I'm in Facebook jail, You don't own Facebook. You don't own Instagram. You are tactically deficient. Strategically limited. This is war. And if you think it's war like a game like Fortnite or things like that, no. This is a political and a military situation scenario, and you better wake up and understand that right away. The people that you're dealing with. And I talked to this brother, said, aren't you afraid about your career? I said, look, man, Israel ain't make me funny. Allah made me funny. I ain't worried. I ain't scared. I've been there before. My point is this, and I say this to the Muslim community in the utmost respect, but we done got soft as hell. We moist. We are almost the equivalent in a reverse fear factor of what Israel is. Israel is blatantly blind to what they do and what they say. They don't care who they do it to. They don't care when they do it to. Listen, we live in the United States, brothers and sisters, where you could talk about the United States. You could burn a flag damn near. You could talk about the president, da-da-da. But try in a public job, in a public sector, to boycott or talk about boycotting Israel, you will lose your job. This is a country where they can cause you to lose your job, brothers and sisters. They don't even pay taxes. They don't pay taxes. You can't have a BDS right now. Let me tell y'all something. Somebody sent around a video and they said, listen, you know, these are all the things that you should protest. Do you realize how many products support Israel? I can't go to McDonald's. I can't get a Coke. I can't go to Starbucks. I got to stop eating Snickers. I got to stop eating Kit Kats. I got to check the label in my drawers just to make sure that my drawers aren't supporting Israel. You can't go to Walmart, Nestle. I mean, it's a whole list of things. I was just talking about one of the imams. You know, look, your cleaning product, you can't even do this stuff. And if you protest, brothers and sisters, they got your name and number. If you speak up, they got your name and number. And I'll even throw this out here because I want to bring this back to the curious case of Rashida Tlaib. At one point in time, has it become illegal to think and have reason and logic in meaningful debate? See, this first censure measure that was brought against her, this latest one that passed, it wasn't the first. Representative Marjorie Greene from Georgia tried to do it and it didn't pass. It got tabled because it didn't have the right language. Not that it was inappropriate. Not that it was vindictive. It didn't have the right language. So they produced another censure measure that had the right language. And they marched her out there like she was on a pirate ship, you know, Palestinians of the Caribbean. They marched her out there, and why do you think they did that, brothers and sisters? They want to let you know that even the political process in this whole scope of the Hamas-Israeli crisis, even the political process in the United States was not work for you. That the influence is so big that these congressmen who are worried about keeping their jobs will circumvent the will of the people to keep their jobs for this situation overseas. That even now, and Sister Tlaib alluded to it, and I think it was a deep point that was missed, even now, we're talking about the rise of anti-Semitism without talking about what Semitism is. Without having a full conversation about what is a Semite. The Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan talked about a Semite. And he said it's impossible to be anti-Semite if you are from Semitic people. If your faith, if your line and your lineage is from this process, and the thing about being Semitic, if you will, you know, some folks ain't gonna like this. Hey, Todd, this might cost me a gig or two. Here we go. The thing about being Semitic is the fact that it is what's the word I'm looking for? It invalidates the fact that you have black Semites. But the idea is Semitism is a white notion that only white people, white-skinned Israelis can be Semites. Do you know you have black Palestinians? Do you know you have black Israelis? You know, you got black Pakistanis. There ain't nowhere in the world when you ain't got some black in it. Facts. Facts. And I think the thing that I want to say about this curious case of Sister Rashida Tlaib is that what she talked about isn't new. What she talked about isn't new. we're talking about Sleepy Joe, No Go Joe, Biden. I'm talking about a government structure that has counter. Can't tell Israel what to do. Israel won't even listen, and they still giving them money. And I count that on the moist government, U.S. government. Think about this. Think about it in your own house. Think about it in your own relationship with your parents. If your parents told you to do something and you willfully did not do it, do you think they'd let you? Do you think they will reward you? Do you think they will let you go outside and play? They buy you toys? Hell no. Not in my house and not in anybody else's house. It's a matter of respect. And this absence of decorum is what we're looking at right now. You see, they use decorum in this situation to override the fact that there is no decorum. That the United States government and our political system right now is in a state of flux because Israel at this point in time, as president constructed, knows that we don't have any substance. We don't have any substance. See, the thief's biggest fear is that somebody's going to steal from them. That's the thief's biggest fear. An addict's biggest fear is that somebody's going to take their dope. That somebody's going to deny them. That in the whole face of sum zero, we now have these problems. Let me give a shout out. What's going on, brother Eric? Salam. Walaikum assalam rahmatullah, brother. Thank you so much for joining us. I hope everything's going well down in South Carolina. Sister Sonia said Israel has always done as they wanted. And she needs to speak to that. Brother Altaf, I'd like to include the leader of Canada in your list of those who are soft. Oh no, Trudeau is moist. There's soft and then there's moist. Moist, that's probably gonna have to be another show. But what you have is this fear. And I think the thing that's interesting as we watch the curious case of Rashida Tlaib, like I said, this is largely symbolic. But they put in this manifest, and they framed it in such a way that they were disabling her. Now, when Ilhan Omar, when they took her committees from her, which the Republicans couldn't wait to do, the GOP couldn't wait to do, they broke her down, she cried. I was like, sister, stop crying. But they broke her down and all of that, and I'm like, they made an example, again, of another Muslim woman. Because let's be real, you ain't going to see Andre Carson up there crying. Why wouldn't they go after Andre Carson? Not that he's a man, not that he's a Muslim, he's a black man. And then when you start tipping that thing, it's different. Let me tell y'all something about Israel. Israel keeps every receipt that they can. Every receipt. When I say every receipt, every slight, every perceived slight, every disrespect, every time they don't get what they want to, they keep receipts. We're going to talk about receipts in the curious case of Rashida Tlaib. We'll be right back here on the ShOUT Show. Don't you move. Yeah, so, my first, introduction to convenient urgent care, they were providing masks and supplies for people who didn't have supplies during COVID. And I went to pick them up and was going to take them around to some of the local areas. And I ran into a brother named Ijaz Saeed. And as I began to talk to Ijaz, it was very, very clear that this brother had a vision for community service. Oftentimes, when you have urgent cares in a situation, that they're not necessarily doing a prevention or education. He came up with the term "a home of the smart patient," and I understand what that means. It means that people really want to be in tune about their health, but at the same time, they also want to be in tune about the people who are providing health. This is a very organic relationship. And little did I know, a year or so later, I would actually have to call on their services when I was in dealing with some physical trauma, if you will. And I have to say, they held my hand and they took me through the process. The offerings of telehealth, the offerings of being able to walk in consistent. I was in pretty bad shape, but They treated me like I was the president of the United States, not that one, Obama. Okay, I'm joking. But what I want to say is the professionalism, the dedication, the care, compassion, and the consistency, all the things I just named, makes convenient urgent care the space you want to go to. 3 locations in the Houston area: Cypress, Pasadena, and Parker Road in Houston. But I want to say the overall conceptual understanding of convenient urgent care is that they care for their patients, even when the patients don't know how to care for themselves. Check them out. Okay, we're back. We ended on talking about receipts. This is a term that people talk about now. Oh, I keep my receipts. I keep my receipts. It's like proof or a little or whatever you want to say. This proves my point. Israel has always kept their receipts. And I don't blame them. I don't blame them. But the thing about receipts is that they're applicable. They're episodic. If I go to the grocery store, it reflects that I went to the grocery store. It tells you what I bought. If I go to the doctor and I get a prescription, it tells you what I got from the doctor. If I go and my car has to be repaired, I had to get a tire repaired. They tell you everything on the receipt that happened. You had to get the tire, it had to be balanced. These are the things. That being said, that you have receipts does not give you the ability or the right to supersede other people's right to exist. We talk about Zionism. Let's really talk about Zionism. Zionism is not about the Israelis who were in Israel. That's not. Zionism is European Jews who came up with this whole concept. We talked about Zionism last week. My big problem with Zionism is, why do we keep dealing with people who don't believe in God? And I'm going to get to that point in a minute. But these are people who do not believe in God. And every time we deal with folks, we want to feel like they are God-fearing, that we have a conversation, a logical conversation. They don't believe in God. So why are you even talking? But I think the thing that's interesting is, if you hold a receipt too long and you don't have the right mindset for a receipt, it becomes vindictive. It becomes more than this is what happened, the episode. It means that I want retribution for the episode. And I say this all the time, when people want revenge, there's no quotient for revenge. When people talk about an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth, it gives you this whole idea that there's equality. No, it's not. It's not. That's not the way the world works. If you punch me, I kick you. If you kick me, I stab you. If you stab me, I shoot you. You can see how this thing skews in a very, very unprofessional, well, not unprofessional, but a very unproductive way. And what happened, brothers and sisters, my theory, my opinion, and you can take it for what it's worth. We say that hurt people hurt people. But people who are traumatized other people. It's a different thing than hurt. This is traumatized. I am working to create a system that makes sure that you're not sure about your own existence. I am putting together a plan to make sure that you are never ever going to feel whole about your situation, right? That you are never going to feel good about your surroundings. That every day you wake up, there's going to be some kind of doubt. African Americans are traumatized people. We're traumatized people. I said in Friday Reminder, stop talking about Zionists as Zionists. They're serial killers. The United States, black folk, we live in a community in the midst of people who are serial killers. Generations of serial killers. The only reason they don't kill us now is because the law doesn't prevent. The law won't allow it now. The law calls for some type of level of civility, so they can't kill us. So because they can't kill us, they give us these laws that make sure that life is damn sure difficult to live. That If I'm doing well, I got to worry about if one person black man out of 10 is doing well, I got to worry about why the other 9 aren't doing well. I can't enjoy what I have, and they can't wish me success because they're still struggling. That black existence, brothers and sisters, is the antidote to serial killers, which is serial survivors. The Palestinian people, serial survivors. The people of the Congo, serial survivors. And that you have this generation that threatens the status quo. That threatens the status quo of Zionists because there's always the fear that they're going to get it together. Zionists never have to get it together. Serial killers never have to get it together. Let me tell y'all something. And I might be wrong, but I think I might be right. If a serial killer cannot kill you, they will come back to try and kill you again. Listen to what I'm saying. If a serial killer cannot kill you, they will come back. That is the whole definition of being a serial killer. That if I can't take you out, then I have to come back to try and take you out. And while the world is watching, you're understanding what this relationship is between Israel and the Palestinian people is that they can't take them out. 75 years of not being able to take them out. The only thing that beats that is African American existence. Slavery, Jim Crow, Middle Passage, all of these things that have earmarked what black existence is, civil rights, it underlines the fact that we are serial survivors. That people come from other countries and marvel at the fact that we still walking around. That you can, Brother Eric is down in South Carolina. South Carolina had one of the biggest slave ports in the world. And you still have black folks that down there who are running businesses, who are going to school, who are educating their children. Several hundred years ago, they were all slaves. The curious case of Rashida Tlaib, brothers and sisters, is that when they walked her out, and I looked at it. I looked at it several times, but they walked her out like she was on the slave block. That her crime was not existing, her crime was thinking out loud and sharing. Stripped down of her dignity, stripped down of her logic, made to stand there alone amongst people who knew that what was going on was wrong, but they were forced to watch. They were forced to watch. To the point that when the next person, the next Rashida Tlaib, the next Ilhan Omar, the next Farrakhan, the next Elijah Muhammad wants to stand up, they won't have the support. The next W.D. Muhammad, they won't have the support. Even our intellectuals now are muted. Dr. Cornel West, muted. Muted. Jesse Jackson, muted. Al Sharpton, muted. And the thing is, we don't have young voices. Because our young voices are off doing whatever they do. That we have created a system and a didactic to make sure that we keep producing moist leadership. And when I say moist leadership, you know it ain't good. And as you begin to understand this part, here's a little bit of the kicker. Israel can't do what they do to Palestine. They can't do it to anybody else. Without assistance. Without the threat, the bigger threat. Because we're talking about outside of the Gaza space. We're talking about in a universal space. that the perception is if you don't follow the rules that are not applicable to you, are not advantageous, that are not fair, that somehow you fall outside the space of logic. Watching what you see now, brothers and sisters, is literally what people, and you can look on YouTube, people were horrified when they realized what went on in the Holocaust. People were horrified. But people were only horrified when it was revealed. The United States knew. IBM knew. All the defense people knew what was going on in Auschwitz and Dachau and all these. They knew. So literally now, the perception is somebody's got to pay. Somebody's got to pay. And I don't want to get into, Torah or aspects of Jewish midrash, with the things we used to call it midrash, whereby the feeling would be so desperate that somehow, some way, in this situation of the Holocaust, people felt like, it was justified. God made it so. And it was probably the last aspect of religiosity that was put into the Holocaust. But it's a religious edict that we follow. That Allah is the best of planners. And there were Jewish people who said, God is the best of planners, even though they were going through horrific situations. But now you produce people who don't believe in God. So the constant beating up of Palestinian people now becomes generational. They don't have an army. They have an IDF, but they don't have an army. You have people who have to leave their jobs as gardeners and students and have to serve for 2 years. I went to military school, 6 years. And I can tell you what they taught me. Outside of core subject matters and having to take religion class that was based on Catholicism, I wasn't Catholic. I took military science class for 4 years. And they taught us everything about war. They taught us everything about military strategy. I'm not an advocate for guns, but at this age of 56, I understand what an azimuth is and a back azimuth. And I had to shoot a rifle on a windy day and my life depended on it, and I had to shoot somebody. I could probably still do it. And this is training I went through 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. To graduate, I had to take a rifle proficiency test. And I didn't want to do it, but I did it because I wanted to graduate. But these are the things that are going on, but that's, I never looked at it like, oh, this is a real thing. It's like, shoot it and get out of it. Let me get back on point. The case of Rashida Tlaib is this right here. You have to understand, it's not that she got beat up in the censure thing. You got to go to the other side of the story, the other side of the TV, and realize you've been getting your butt whooped too. You've been getting beat up by this policy in this country for years. I'm an entertainer. Right? We talk about free speech as comedians. Listen, I love my Muslim comedians. I know the ones that speak up, but I know the ones that don't speak up. And I know why they don't speak up. And I saw them kowtown and bootlick to these people who were Jewish. I'm not saying they were religious folks. Jewish in title. You know how that goes. Just like Muslim in name, Jewish in title. But what I will emphasize is they were afraid of their power or perceived power. One of the things that bothers me, that befuddles me, is that we can come up with entire industries, entire cultural phenomena, and somebody could come and say, well, the record companies, I remember when rap was free. So, Tom, I remember when rap was free. Satana's like, I'm not messing with you. I'm gonna lose my job. But Satana, anybody can remember when rap was really free, and then it became a business, and then people were being told what to rap about, and then people were told this is what sells, and then people were being told don't say that. You know, and they weren't my favorite group. They weren't my favorite group. NWA weren't my favorite group, and I'm gonna tell you why. Because NWA, let's be honest, they had a Jewish manager named Jerry Heller. And it bothered me that Cube and all this stuff, Black Talk, even though we're talking about gangsters, they had a Jewish manager. And when the group broke up, Eazy-E went with the Jewish manager. And when they did the tune, and Ice Cube may live in infamy for this, for his whole life, but he said something that was real. When he put out the diss record, No Vaseline, and I would suggest everybody go listen to No Vaseline. He spoke from a wellspring of frustration of black folks, from the artistic community. Did people still believe that Elvis Presley is a musical genius, not understanding that he stole from Sister Thornton and all these people? Ain't Nothing But a Hound Dog. That wasn't his song. But the provocation is that people feel as though they could take what they want to take. When I watched the thing yesterday, and I watched this video several times, there's a couple of takeaways about what happened with Rashida Tlaib. They did something a little bit different than muting her. They let her talk with the express intent of not respecting what she was saying, which is worse than being muted. It means we're going to let you say what you're going to say, but it doesn't matter. You know, it's sort of like when people get sentenced, they have victim statements, and they ask the prisoner to go up and make make a statement. I'm sorry for the family. It don't matter, dude. You just putting on time in, and you just delaying the obvious that you're gonna go do this time. They don't care if you're sorry. They don't care. This is all procedural. In her case, it's procedural. Let me tell you something for the Muslim community. There's no outrage. We are muted, and nobody cares what we say. Ain't nobody worried about what we say. We don't present a threat to anybody right now. My good friend James Salim, comedian, it's so funny. He said, remember when people used to be scared of black folk? They used to be, oh my God, ain't nobody scared of Muslims right now. The time, I don't want to say time has passed, but I have to put out, we do have to reassess how we present ourselves. How do we fight this situation? African American dichotomy has a bit of history, because, hey, some of us will protest, some of us will be diplomatic, some of us will set your store on fire. We have a whole range in terms of how we deal with rage. But the Muslim community is hamstrung. We don't know what we want to do. We don't know who to go to. We're still stuck in this sad modality of working with the enemy will solve our problems. It won't solve your problems. It won't solve your problems. You know what I didn't see? Satana, you know what I didn't see yesterday? On this whole censure thing? There was no interfaith organization to support Rashida Tlaib. I talked to an imam, a beloved brother out of Philadelphia, who said he just quit his interfaith organization because he realized, it's a puppet show. That people are going to feed you lines, if you will. People are going to they're gonna pacify you until the real time comes, and then you find out exactly who you dealing with. You find out exactly who it is. Let's give a shout out to Mark Kennedy. Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. What's going on, Big Mark? Hope you're doing well, brother. We're talking about the curious case of Rashida Tlaib. Mark is a registered Democrat in Virginia. And Mark, I'd love to hear what you think about the censure of Rashida Tlaib yesterday. The fact that several Democrats signed on with it, but you had some Republicans that didn't go with it. They were nay votes. But Jeffrey signed off on it. I heard. I have to check. I'm not 100% sure, but I did hear that he signed off on this censure measure. And like I said, while it is largely symbolic, it does make a point. It does make a point. And I believe that it continues to weaken the will of the people. It continues to weaken the voice of the people, mute the voice of the people to the point that we'll be silent because we don't know what's effective anymore. Someone asked me about going to a protest. I said, well, what were we protesting about? I said, we were protesting. I said, so how effective is this protest going to be? I don't know. I'm going to show my support. Well, there's been other times when people have been oppressed. Did you protest then? There were times when there were schools who were being closed or curriculum was inappropriate. We didn't have time to protest. We had to literally say, we're not going to teach this. That this educational functionality, it won't work for the students. And I'll bet my reputation as a teacher on it. You're going to probably have to fire me because I just can't do this to the children for a year. Even with that being said, at what level are we talking about? Mark said, here we go. Didn't hear about, I'm sorry, Steiner, could you put that up, please? Yeah, generally silencing people is not good. Yeah. And like I said, the whole thing about the censure thing, unlike Ilhan Omar, where they took a committee space, that's taking power away. I think you set the premise for engagement on Zionist policies at this point in time that will eventually affect lawmaking. It's already affecting budgets. You're talking about giving $11 billion to Israel, and we have a deficit. They're not talking about what the deficit will. We're talking about keeping the government open, but we're willing to give a foreign country money to defend themselves after they slaughtered everybody. You don't have to defend yourself if you kill everybody. If you remove everybody, if you surgically move places and displace people, if you literally say, I'm operating in this space that I was fearful of, why do you need more money? And that's what I thought was interesting with the Rashida Tlaib situation, is that they presented her as someone who, in her way, with from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, that this is a call to destroy Israel. It is not. And I think the part that the person who presented it, I don't think they were Jewish. I don't think they were Israeli. They were parroting a policy that's not there. That I can feign fear. Literally, the Israeli incursion into Gaza is literally a mirror of stand your ground that we have here in the United States. All right, we're going to wrap. Listen, you guys have been great. I'm not going to do a whole hour. Sister Tyler's been patient. We got things to do. You got to have places to be. I want to be respectful of your time. But I just want you to really think about it. If you get a chance, please check out the hearing, if you will, the procedure that they did yesterday with Sister Rashida Tlaib. Because she brought some really valid points, but it fell on deaf ears. Which really is the thing that bothered me. And like I said, this whole thing of this incursion. Like I said, this is like I said, in the United States we have we have the stand your ground rule. This is stand your ground on an international level. So I'm gonna get out of here. You guys been amazing. Inshallah, I'll see you next week. If you're in Milwaukee and Madison, Preacher Moss, Marlon Hill, Chastity, Washington, we will be premiering the Overwork Underpaid Teacher Comedy Tour. I think tickets are sold out. I think we have, at this point, at the Laughing Tap in Milwaukee, we have 4 tickets left. Call and get them. Madison, I think we're sold out, but call, and maybe we should do another show or make them put some more chairs in that place. I want to say thank you for all the people who have put this thing together. Marlon, Chastity, for all your hard work. I wasn't able to participate due to some health issues. And all the people that are coming out, we appreciate you. As I close, peace and blessings to people of Africa that are dealing with oppression, people in the United States are dealing with oppression, of course, Palestinian brothers and sisters dealing with oppression, and Israelis that are dealing with oppression, real oppression. I want them to feel that you have love from the preacher man and people of religion and logic. That's our show today. Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. The Shout Out Show. See you next week.